Can you hear me? All right. All right, thank you. Good afternoon and welcome to the February 11, 2025 regular meeting of the Community Development Commission of Chicago. I am Gwendolyn Hatton Butler, Chairwoman of the CDC. Today's meeting is being held at City Hall Council Chambers and is also being streamed by the Department of Planning and Development. The agenda for today's meeting was posted on February 6, 2025, both on the CDC website and physically at City Hall. I will now call to order the February 11, 2025 meeting of the Community Development Commission with a call of the roll. Commissioners, when your name is called, please respond by saying present. Please note this vote will be used to establish the roll call for subsequent items. Vice Chair Latasha Thomas.
Present.
Secretary Grace Chan McKibben. DPD Commissioner Sierra Boatwright. Commissioner Robert Buford. Commissioner Dwight Curtis. Commissioner Leslie Davis. Commissioner Jacqueline Gomez. Commissioner Cornelius Griggs. Commissioner Terrence Johnson. Commissioner Ronald Millsap. Commissioner John Zayas. Commissioners, thank you. We have a quorum. The first item on our agenda requests approval of the minutes from our previous meeting held on January 14, 2025. The commissioners have had an opportunity to review the minutes, and if there are no corrections, I move passage of this item by the same roll call vote previously used to establish quorum. Are there any corrections or objections? Hearing no corrections or objections, the motion is approved, and let the record show that DPD Commissioner Boatwright has joined us. Commissioners, for the first and only item of new business on today's agenda, the Department of Planning and Development is requesting the Commission to grant authority to the Department of Planning and Development to negotiate a redevelopment agreement with 548 Development LLC for the redevelopment of the property located at 8840 through 8854 South Commercial Avenue in the Commercial Avenue Redevelopment Project area, and for the Commission to grant authority for the Department of Planning and Development to negotiate a land sale agreement with 548 Development LLC for the disposition of the property located at 8840 through 8854 South Commercial Avenue within the Commercial Avenue Redevelopment Project area, and for the Commission to recommend to the City Council the designation of 548 Development LLC as developer. Erica Selke will provide a brief description of this request on behalf of the Department of Planning and Development.
Yes, thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Erica Selke. I'm the lead planner for the Far South region with the Department of Planning and Development. As mentioned, the project's located at 8840-8854 South Commercial Avenue. This is in the Commercial Avenue TIF district in the 10th Ward, Alderman Chico's ward in the South Chicago community area. This is a context map. The site is outlined in red on the map there. It's at the corner of Commercial Avenue and 89th Street. You can see the Chicago Skyway just to the west, and to the east, you can see a portion of the PsiQuantum site where the new PsiQuantum facility will be developed. There are also two metro stations that serve the site just east. You may remember, it's been quite a while. In 2020, this project came before the CDC to request authority to acquire the property, this property, and then also to request authority to advertise and issue an RFP for the site. So we did issue that RFP. We did acquire the properties, and after a evaluation process, 548 Development was selected. And this evaluation process did include quite a bit of community engagement and involvement. This is a closer look at the site, looking towards the west. You can see Commercial Avenue and 89th Street. This is a close-up image of the site. There are existing buildings. There is a building at 8854, which is the one-story white building that is currently owned by the developer. Then there is a vacant lot that's owned by the developer. Then there's a second vacant lot right next to it. They're both 25 feet wide, which is owned by the city. And then the city owns the two buildings at the northern end of the site, a two-story building and a three-story building. These are some exterior shots of the buildings. Unfortunately, the three-story building we were hoping to retain and reuse, but having the developer and contractor and everyone go through the property, they just found issues that couldn't be easily repaired and would essentially call for rebuilding the entire building from the ground up instead of rehabbing it. So project overview, the project is called Galleria 89 and is a new construction mixed-use project, which will provide 57 units of affordable housing from between 30% and 60% of the AMI, and about 3,000 square feet of ground floor commercial space. There will also be a public plaza on the site, on the northern end of the site as well. The funding request is approximately $18.3 million in TIF, and the total project cost is a bit over $46 million. It is anticipated that if the appropriate approvals are granted, they could begin construction this summer. This is a site plan of the proposal. The building is in the dark gray at the bottom half of the site. You could see some commercial uses in there. And then if you look to the northern end of the site, that is a public open space. There are parking spaces off the alley to the east. And I will say that the site has a pretty heavy grade to it, going down to the alley, so you can't see the parking spaces from the street. This is an elevation, approximately 6 stories of glass and masonry. This is the frontage along 89th Street. Project budget. So these are some of the numbers here. Again, I mentioned the TIF funding at 18.3. Then there is some DPD CRP funds, approximately 3.4 million. They're also seeking funding from IDA, Light Tech funding, 4% money, and then also soft fund loan from IDA as well. And I will mention that the community development consultant and the founder and CEO of 548 are here, so we can delve further into those numbers if there are more questions. So as I mentioned, the lead developer is 548 Development, AJ Patent, and Farr Associates is his architect, with Berglund Construction, which is a South Chicago-based construction firm. Public benefits, the new building will include 57 affordable units. The community advocated for deeper affordability. So doing 51 units are 60% AMI, and 6 of the units are at 30% AMI. The developer has a foundation that does extensive workforce development. And they've been actively involved with neighborhood organizations, setting up this workforce development program to train neighborhood residents, particularly in terms of solar panel and other green construction activities. And then the project also aims to acquire passive house certification. So finally, the request for the commission is to grant the authority for Department of Planning and Development and Department of Housing to negotiate a redevelopment agreement with 548, to recommend to the City Council the designation of 548 Development as the developer, and then approve such agreements and undertakings in connection with the disposition of land to a private developer to redevelop the parcels. And as I mentioned, Andy Greer, the community development consultant, and AJ Patton, the founder and CEO of 548 Development, are both here if there are questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Erica. The commissioners have been provided a letter of support from Alderman Chico. If present today, I would like to recognize Alderman Chico and invite them to make a statement on the project. Is the Alderman here or anyone from their office?
I don't believe so. Not in person, no.
Thank you. Commissioners, do you have any questions for the department regarding this request? Vice Chair Thomas.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Can you pull back the budget, the project budget? Okay. What is the DPD funds, the 3.4?
So this is CRP funds, which were set aside in the last administration as part of the Invest Southwest initiative for multifamily development. So this is sort of the end of that bit of money.
Invest Southwest?
Yeah.
Is that a grant?
I'm not sure. Tim, it's a grant? Yes, sorry, thank you.
Okay. And then the LLC is a private company. It's not for profit, right? Or is it not for profit?
There's different subsidiaries, but the development company is
The
a-
LLC that will
is a
receive the TIF
right.
money.
I'm sorry, what was the answer?
Yes, it is a private company that will receive the funding.
The TIF funding.
Yes,
So it is a private LLC that will receive the TIF funding, correct?
yes.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair.
Other questions from members of the commission?
I have a question.
Yes, please, Commissioner Gomez.
Just to, kind of as a follow-up, so if, I saw on there that there was also, training being conducted, is the LLC doing, the private company doing the training, or?
I'd like to invite AJ to come up, if you don't mind, or can he speak from there? I don't know if that
Yes, he can
microphone's
speak from
on.
there.
Okay.
And then
Thank
if
you.
you can just also just provide you said there was various subsidiaries, how is it all connected?
Yes, sorry.
Yeah,
AJ.
Commissioner, good afternoon. Yes, so we have multiple
Could you
entities.
please introduce yourself for purposes of the record?
Yes, Madam Chair. My name's AJ Patton. I'm the founder of 548 Development. I'm also the founder of the 548 Foundation, which will also be a part of the partnership group that will lead the development. So the foundation, as a part of our investment in the community, will also lead workforce development in the neighborhood so that local folks will get first access to the jobs that are created by the strategic investment. So the foundation will be a part of the general partnership and have an ownership stake in the development.
Are there any additional questions? Yes, Commissioner Millsap.
AJ, you spoke to the project being able to break construction this summer. Can you talk about lending sources in terms of the equity and the bank debt and the viability of actually breaking ground this summer?
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner. Yeah, I mean, so we've got multiple
For
folks.
purposes of the records, you have to introduce yourself every time you speak.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My name's AJ Patton, the CEO of 548 Development. Yes, so we've got multiple bids for the equity and the debt for the project. They're really just kind of waiting on us to give them the green light that we are moving through at a real pace through the city process. I believe we'll have permits for this project probably in the next 2 or 3 weeks. So we will have done all that we have done, all can do to this point in terms of moving the project along, in terms of extending ourselves from an investment perspective. The organization's put put a lot of work and resources into getting permit ready. And we will have a permit probably before the end of this month, beginning of next. And the banks are waiting on us to just say when's a projected closing date so we can get started.
Additional questions? So as a follow-up question, what's the timeline for breaking ground on the development as well as delivery of the units?
Yeah, my name is AJ Patton, 548. We will probably target a late April, early May close. It's probably a bit aggressive, considering where we are with the financial process. That's going to take 60 days to close after we go through the remaining city process. It'll be a stereotypical 14 to 16 month construction timeline, which will land us somewhere in the fall 26 delivery timeline. So that will be our kind of our projected timeline. So start early summer in the following fall.
Thank you. And just one additional question for me. How do you screen tenants for, how will you screen tenants for this development?
Yeah, great question. So, this is a community that is very active. And so, we have been very transparent in engaging with them and allowing them to really be a part of the process. They frankly pressed us to get more 30% units, 30% AMI units. So historically, there would not be this many. We probably have double the amount that historically is in a development of this scale. And so we, in addition to having more 30% AMI, they want those folks to already be in the neighborhood. So we'll do a kind of a robust community engagement process that will allow local folks to get first round of applications in. We hired a property management company that was from the South Side specifically, that had a great deal of experience in South Side developing and management. And so it was critical to us that to make sure local folks, this is the first new construction development in the ward of housing, and I believe a generation or so. So they're very, very, very excited about it, but also they've been very engaged in all of the details about this, including the leasing process.
Great, thank you. Commissioners, are there additional questions or comments? Yes, Commissioner Davis.
Just to piggyback off of the last question, I'm glad to hear that there's going to be a robust involvement of the community. What other community partners in that area are you working with? Knowing that now that area, which has been blighted for so long, is now the newest hot topic since there are, different, since the quantum site is going to be coming. So just wanting to make sure that you're being thoughtful about the other folks who are in the community, who've been in that community and been working in that community for a long time, and that they're not kind of being leapfrogged over for those who are newly trying to come into the community for investment purposes.
Thank you, Commissioner. My name is AJ Patton. We have done, because I think you guys saw there, this is a project we're probably 4 years in of the community engagement process. We had at one point had done a community meeting every 6 weeks. And so much so, we had done to the scale that they actually had to trim the community meetings down. This is when I say 3-4 years of community meetings, this is where 60 and 70 people were still showing up to these meetings 2 years into the design process, a year into the bidding process. Then we rebid the project because they demanded more units. They thought they were getting shorted a little bit. And so we added a floor to this development. We have met with not just the robust community and the SSA and all of that, not to mention there's been an aldermanic change in the ward. They've then trimmed down the community groups so that we can be a bit more kind of nuts and bolts in those meetings. So those groups, that's a very diverse community. So you're talking about folks that represent all of those different groups, from Altgeld all the way to the different neighborhoods around it. So we've met with, I can say this with confidence, we've met with every major community group several times, and they've been very hands-on in this project.
Does that include the local churches as well?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Additional questions or comments from members of the commission? Thank you, commissioners. No written statements from the public were submitted on this matter. If there are no further questions or comments from the commission, I would now like to invite members of the public who are in attendance and interested to speak on this item. Each speaker will be limited to 3 minutes and asked to keep any statements relevant to the request before us. If there are members of the public present who would like to make a comment, please come to the mic at this time. If there are no further questions or comments regarding the matter before us, I will now call this item to a vote. The resolution before us, the Department of Planning and Development is seeking the Commission to grant authority to the Department of Planning and Development to negotiate a redevelopment agreement with 548 Development LLC for the redevelopment of the property located at 8840 through 8854 South Commercial Avenue in the Commercial Avenue redevelopment project area, and for the Commission to grant authority for the Department of Planning and Development to negotiate a land sale agreement with 548 Development LLC for the disposition of the property located at 8840 through 8854 South Commercial Avenue within the Commercial Avenue redevelopment project area, and for the Commission to recommend to the City Council the designation of 548 Development LLC as developer. If there are no objections, I move passage of this item by the same roll call vote previously used to establish quorum. Are there any objections or abstentions? Hearing none, the motion is approved. Commissioners, that was our last item on today's agenda. If there are no further questions or comments, I move to adjourn the February 11, 2025 meeting of the Community Development Commission by the same roll call vote previously used to establish quorum. Hearing none, we are adjourned.